All right, guys. As usual, we're back this week to do our weekly Attack on Titan episode review. With episode 69 today. I believe
Yeah.
it's the ninth episode of this season. Yeah, we're gonna start with our initial reactions and thoughts on the episode. So, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was like better than the previous two episodes. I thought it was honestly, if I'm be real about this, I think this episode I don't know, it just made me feel empty and I think it did a very good job of presenting us like this very confusing character of Eren right now.
Mhm.
Who's clearly has some conflict within him between his duty to Paradise and also his loyalty to his friends. Yeah, I actually really liked the episode and I rewatched it like 1.5 times, even beyond what was necessary. And I thought it was the best of the previous, honestly, including the Sasha episode. I'd say even the best since uh, Armin appeared.
Yeah, I completely agree. I could see why some people would think this episode is kind of boring, and I've already heard that from a few people. But what I will say is that there was a lot there for us to kind of delve into. There's a lot to pick up and analyze, especially based on Aaron's character, and see kind of what a little bit more background into why he's doing what he's doing. I agree with you. I think this is the best episode as far as like the low key episodes, including some of the ones at the beginning. Like I
Mhm.
feel like it had the same kind of vibe where not too much story wise happens. It's more of a setup episode, but we still do get a lot of like information every here and
Yeah,
there.
we had a lot of information this episode compared to
Definitely.
previous episodes. Yeah, about many different people, and we can get into the specifics of that. But yeah, were there any moments in the episode that particularly made you feel a certain way, or any
Definitely the scene
reactions?
with Hanji and Aaron in
Yeah,
the prison. That was a really powerful scene, and then also the I think it was the final scene with Connie, Jean, Armin, and Mikasa all in the room,
hmm
just talking about Eren. Yeah, we'll get more
yeah,
into that, but yeah, just
yeah.
really
I
good
agree
moment.
totally with both of those. And yeah, that's pretty much all. I hear our fact checkers coming in and telling us that it is actually episode 10 instead of
My
9.
mistake. My
So,
mistake. Yeah.
but yeah, with that, we'll get into the analysis. So this is sort of not a very important line, but Yelena says, "I haven't seen you since you lifted our ship a whole year ago." Um, and I think that this builds a little bit into Eren's distaste for Hanji and some of the other high ups in Paradise. Because what this seems to imply to me is that they've been keeping Yelena away from Eren or keeping Eren away from Yelena. Because we remember from the previous episode that Onyancopon was hanging out with Armin and Sasha, Jean, Connie, all of them. Uh, so you would think that it was okay for the scouts that are sort of on Aaron's same level to be around these Marleyan people. But the fact that they haven't seen each other and the fact that Yelena would have gone out of her way to see Eren makes me think that they were either keeping Eren away from Yelena or keeping Yelena away from Eren. And if it was keeping Eren away from Yelena, I think that this shows that the people of Paradise have been a little sussed out about Eren, and maybe this has led to him becoming kind of a dick to them.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, the scene definitely or this line definitely shows that there's some distrust of Eren from the higher ups in Paradise and Hanji possibly. So the next big thing that we find out in this episode is that the people of Hazuru, who we've been seeing this main lady a few times in the past few episodes, they've been secretly somewhat meeting with Zeke and kind of going along with what his plan is, or at least giving it a thought. So they come to Paradise in the past, I believe it was 2 years ago, to
Mhm.
talk to the people and kind of come to some agreement. And I think the big thing here is that we get pretty much complete clarity as to what Zeke's whole plan is. I
Mhm.
think there's three different parts. So the first part was that they wanted to test the rumbling, um, to basically scare all the nations away and buy them some time to build up their military power, which is when the Hazuru people come in. And the final part of the plan, which Eren and I'm sure a lot of other people took issue with, is that they wanted to pass on the founding Titan and a Titan with royal blood, which would mean that Eren has to pass on his Titan and die, and Historia has to become a Titan, which would eventually lead to her being killed 13 years later.
And here is where, like, I think this is the point of this episode, but I just want to bring like specific attention to it. But we see Eren get like really mad here, right? Like we've been trampled on. Now we've got to breed like livestock. But then we cut to the beginning of the episode, and it seems like he's sort of went along with the plan, and he's okay with it now. And we can talk more about what he talked about with Zeke, but do you have any like basic ideas for why he would change on this issue that he seems to care so much about only 2 years ago?
All I can think is that Zeke told him something that made him think that there was no other way. They teased, or not teased, but a few points in this episode, they talked about how they wanted to find another way, and Eren didn't want to sacrifice his friends. So, in order for him to make such a big change, and Hanji points it out, like he in this scene, he specifically is standing up for Historia, saying he doesn't want her to be eaten and have to like reproduce like livestock. And then Hanji says like, "Oh, so you didn't care about his story at all?" In the scene later on. So I'm sure there has to be something that changed his mind as to what him and Zeke were talking about. But as for specifics, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like there's two ways it could go. One is that there's some like sort of logistical or new information that Zeke presented to Eren that made him think, okay, yeah, like either there's no other way, or like maybe this is actually a good thing. Maybe there's like this other plan they're hatching that isn't going to get Historia eaten.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing I think is maybe this episode and that scene is just serving to drive home the point that like Eren is slowly like degrading and losing some of his values. Like we start out with Eren like only wanting to kill Titans, right? Like I'm gonna kill Titans, and then we get the episode in Marley where he straight up like kills a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Um, to the point that I think like it's clearly a theme that Eren is like losing himself and like losing everything that he once stood for just to like focus on this one thing that he stands for, like the propagation of parodies or the Eldians, maybe.
Mhm.
Um, so maybe it could also be an example of that. That's I think the counter theory.
Yeah. I think it likely is that second one where Aaron is clearly growing further and further into madness. But I do think something that this episode notes a lot is that towards the beginning of the flashbacks, Aaron is very clearly like, we cannot do this. You know, I'm not going to sacrifice Astoria. I don't want to sacrifice my friends. And towards the end of the flashbacks, he starts to kind of realize maybe there isn't any way of like any other way of doing it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
even in the last episode, he made a comment along those lines. So
Mm-hmm.
it's possible that he just over time kind of forced himself to think, oh, there is no other way. This is the only way I'm going to do it. And that's kind of what drove him into that pit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what caused him to spiral, basically.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
it could be a combination of both. And Zeke just cemented in his head, there's no other way. We have to do this.
So the other big thing that happens here is Historia is revealed to be pregnant, um, and that is not what we were really expecting because in the previous scene it seems that she was like totally down to inherit the Beast Titan, which like clearly can't happen now that she's pregnant, or if it does, like
That'd be fun.
there's yeah some bad things that could happen. Um, and it's with this guy who, might I say, his face is never like really shown.
Hmm.
So I think we've got some sort of crackpot theories about this, but do you have any other thoughts, more surface level about this?
I'm not
Um,
sure. There has to have been something that made her want to be pregnant because she seemed on board with the plan and then she suddenly just got pregnant and which would basically go directly against the plan. And I don't imagine it was out of love and it just happened because she approached him and
yeah.
like we got to get pregnant, you know? So there's definitely something deeper there. Uh,
Mhm.
which I'm sure we'll find more about later on. But yeah, we can go into your crackpot theories.
Yeah, crackpot theory number one is that this is not his baby. This is our man Eren Yeager's baby.
Yes.
So timeline wise, I'm not sure how we can justify this. I don't know if he has been in Paradise in the past 9 months, but, uh, first off, they never show his face, which I don't know how that would imply that this is Aaron's baby, but it kind of makes me think that this guy is like not important or like, I don't know, maybe at some point they'll do a reveal when the baby comes out. And he just looks very different and looks like Aaron or something. But the one thing is, uh, he or she comes to him. They show that little scene of her coming to him, but look at her. This is not the face of someone that's saying, "Wow, I love you." Like, let's get pregnant. Um, so she was probably convinced by someone to do this, or she's already pregnant here, and she needs some sort of like, you know,
Standard.
some guy to say that it's uh, his instead of Aaron's. The one thing about this crackpot theory though is like why would they need to hide it? And like Aaron's baby wouldn't have any special properties, right? I mean, Historia is the royal one.
Yeah, we just have the royal blood, nothing specifically from Eren. So the next big scene that I think we should talk about is when we have all these parody soldiers sitting around drinking, and they emphasize a lot on the drinks. There's a few scenes where we specifically see them pouring, and then we see this scene where the Marleyan person that was in Paradise went to go get another drink, and Nicolo's down there like, "Oh, this is the right drink, right? Like it's this one, right?" And that scene alone makes it very clear that there's something going on with that drink. It's spiked with something. I had initially thought it was like poison or something, but you had what I think is the right answer. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what's a beverage or some sort of liquid that's been thrown around in this series thus far that could, fuck shit up? I
Mhm.
think maybe there's Titan serum in these drinks. Uh, yeah, I mean, they clearly like Yelena and crew clearly like got some Titan serum and gave it all to Pixis.
Mhm.
But it would have been so easy to just keep some.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I think that there's Titan serum here, and they're going to use this to cause chaos.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think that that would explain the line from last episode where it was like, "Oh, this is all we could get."
mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
and
I,
this
I think
this may be spoilers for the next episode, but this is what I imagine happening, and I think we just both talked about it, so I think we both imagine this happening. What I think is that this seems to be around where Aaron is, and we see later on in the episode there's also a drink that's being poured where Zeke is. So what I imagine is they're going to cause chaos in both areas, and Aaron's going to escape, meet up with Zeke, and they're going to do whatever they're planning on doing.
so. We see this other line by Aaron, which maybe speaks to the eventual downfall or degradation of him. Where he says, "Oh, so we've got no other choice but to rely on the rumbling and sacrifice Historia," which makes it seem like he's kind of open to it now.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that this speaks more to like that second theory that I proposed earlier, that like this episode mainly is just focusing on the fact that Aaron is like slowly giving up all of his ideals
Mhm.
in order to like work towards this other thing within him. And yeah, like it just seems like he's losing more and more as time goes on. uh yeah.
Yeah, I think Aaron's character has been really interesting over the course of this whole show. We see him at the very start being very much like a normal protagonist, like, oh, I'm gonna kill all the Titans and I'm gonna do it out of like sheer will. But I feel like his world is so unforgiving, and just
Mhm.
like this show is so unforgiving that he's been forced brutally time and time again to realize that him just believing in himself and like using the power of friendship is not going to be enough. And so
Mhm.
what I think this maybe is him slowly coming to terms with like his cruel world and realizing that just because he doesn't want something to happen doesn't mean that there's just magically going to be a better way to do things. I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe he realized that and had to decide within himself that either I'm gonna have to continue suffering, me and like all the Eldians are gonna continue suffering, or I'm gonna have to make this sacrifice. And I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately he decided to make that sacrifice, and maybe that was what broke him because it goes directly against what we know are his ideals and his beliefs, which is protecting his friends.
Yeah. To me, I have two things. One, like all of the earlier series is kind of Eren getting betrayed and like his ideals getting totally just ruined.
Yeah,
So like season one, we have Annie coming out as Titan Shifter, and Eren like Eren, I think truly like believed in his friends. Like I remember he like was biting his fan, but couldn't turn into the Titan because he just didn't want to fight Annie.
exactly.
Um, but he had to, or else he was gonna die. So he did that. And then obviously we get Ryan and Bertolt turning into Titans, and it's like, okay, I have to fight my other friends. He finds out that he ate his own dad. He finds out that he has like however many years to live. Um, like Eren is constantly sort of getting betrayed by the world around him to the point that I can see why like he would stop trusting people like Hanji, and might like limit his circle of trust to like Mikasa and Armin and maybe nobody else. Or also, as I say this, I think about the fact that Eren seems to be on some sort of good terms with Zeke. And I think that possibly that's because Zeke sees the world as very like methodical, and probably didn't try to appeal to like friendship or anything. I don't think Zeke talks to Eren and was like, if we work together, we can do this. I think he just very clearly presented it and presented the world in the skeptical way that Eren has grown to believe that it is. Um, and that just kind of spoke to this like growing angst within Eren, which sort of made him want to join their team. Uh, and yeah, the other thing that I think might be like the reason that Eren is truly falling into this pit, is like he has this core value within him that he said when he was a kid, like helping Mikasa, that like if you don't fight, you won't win. This might be connected to him being like the attack titan at some point. Eldian stuff goes backwards and forwards in time. But I think that that's the only core value in him. And as he's like grown in society, he has like learned these values of friendship and these things that he cares about, right? He says like, you guys are very important to me. But those aren't his like core values. Like basically Eren, this character, has been like shook up a bunch of times and all of the normal stuff is falling off. Like, okay, he now kills people. Okay, like he now doesn't really trust his friends. And all of that stuff is gonna fall off because what really is at the core of Eren is like this mentality of like you have to fight to win.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot like Rhina's character, we have two inner beings at conflict with each other. We have, like you said, the Eren that he kind of learned to be over years, relying on his friends, pushing until he can't give up. And then we have this other Eren that's been developing, I think, over the course of the show, that's just been completely destroyed by the world and knows that the world is a harsh place, and in order for you to get things done, you have to take drastic measures. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
was really cool the way that we could see him evolve and maybe reach this point. And I think we'll continue to see more of it. I'm not completely sure that what I'm saying is correct. It's just what I see for right now. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how Aaron's character continues to grow. So I think the final thing to talk about in this episode is this just whole kind of scene where we have Connie and Mikasa kind of arguing as to whether or not Eren is snapped or if he still cares about them. We have a whole discussion between the two of them. And as to who's right, I think it could go either way. It's very clear that Eren's undergone some change. I'm not sure if he's fully evil or if he even cares about them anymore, but I think that there's definitely something to talk about here. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've talked sort of about the two sides of Eren, the side that like cares about people and the side that like, appeals to this attack titan within him,
Mhm.
push on and fight. And I think that like they both just are seeing different parts of him. Although it's weird because Mikasa's formative experience with Eren is with the Eren that's like push on and fight.
Yeah.
Uh, but also, I mean, as was kind of implied um, right before this scene, uh, Mikasa was like looking out of the window at the sunset and remembering that flashback that we just saw.
Hmm.
And so I think that Mikasa, so obviously Mikasa's like been in love with Eren for like her whole life. So she's somewhat biased. Uh, but I do think that she's seeing a true part of Eren, and it's possible that this part can be, grown and cultivated because I think he's shed some of his humanity because of like these horrendous experiences they've went through and all the betrayal and stuff. And so if somebody stops the cycle of betrayal on Eren, then possibly he can grow to care more about his friends and look for more diplomatic solutions and do things that get less people killed. But I think that like this season is a real crossroads for Eren. Like, is he going to dip into true evil, or like, is he going to, you know, retain some humanity?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say, and I think, like you just said, right now Aaron could kind of go both ways. Where I mean, even if he does go full like evil, I don't necessarily think he's gonna go around like killing people just to kill people. I think it's more he's
Mm.
just gonna take a harder approach at freeing the Eldians, which ultimately may not be a bad thing in the long term, but it definitely is going to lead to some kind of big change in Aaron's character, and we're going to kind of it's going to be sad to see his morals and his emotions kind of go away, but it'll be an interesting journey, I think.
Yeah. Uh, the other thing is in this scene, so they mentioned that Armin, Mikasa and Armin are going to talk to Eren because, like, they're the ones who should talk to Eren and try to figure this out. And who knows how that'll go? Maybe that'll cultivate some of the kindness. But then if that doesn't work out, Armin says, okay, we've got the Titan serum, we've got options.
Mm.
Uh, what options do they really have with the Titan serum? Because, I mean, pure Titans are like so weak, and Eren has three Titans.
Yeah.
So, like, could they really even eat him?
They'd have to bring him down first, and I think the only person who would be able to do that is Mikasa. And maybe they're building into her coming to the realization that Eren is bad and needs to be stopped. But I think if they try to
Well,
fight him and Mikasa's not fully in it, then it definitely won't go their way.
okay, but they do have Mikasa and Armin, um, two real real powerhouses.
But do you think Mikasa's gonna actually fight Eren?
I don't know, and
That's the thing.
like, I really want to see that scene. I think that'd be an amazing scene
I agree.
after like a lot of emotions of yeah, Mikasa like putting down Eren,
Hmm.
but like, I mean, how is she gonna shake that after like 19 years
Yeah. I think
of
if it does happen, it's gonna be more of an end of the season type thing
yeah,
or end of
yeah,
the show.
end of the series, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Where we slowly, over the course of this season, get to see more hints that Mikasa's growing away from Eren, or at least come to the realization that he needs to stop. Which
and
there has been some seeds of so far.
crackpot theory. Armin decides that like Eren needs to be put down. Armin goes after Eren. Eren straight up eats Armin, and that's the thing that makes Mikasa realize like, okay, I
Yeah.
can't do I can't
Yeah,
do this anymore.
that's a good one. My final prediction for the series as of right now is, while I hate to say it, I do think Aaron's gonna go crazy and he's gonna unleash some kind of devastation. Probably the rumbling. It seems like the rumbling is gonna happen to some
Mm-hmm.
degree. And then in the end, Mikasa's gonna have to kill him, which I think
Yeah.
is gonna be a beautiful ending to the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm
And
looking.
reminders. We don't know anything.
Yeah, we don't know anything. So if I'm right, don't tell me, and it's not my fault that I was right.
And yeah, also revel in the glory of
Yes, yes.
that
Give me my
prediction.
praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything else?
I don't think so. I think
That's about it.
yeah, this was a great episode. Revealed a lot, and just really made me feel like, dang, Eren is like in a really bad place right now.
Yeah, what
Uh,
they're doing with him is really, really good. I think.
mm-hmm.
In terms of
It's
feels.
Yeah, there's things that anime sometimes do where they take the sort of stereotypical like shonen protagonist and twist them a little bit, give them some edge. And I think that like Eren's whole like descent into madness or whatever you want to call it has been done very well, and I'm very interested to see how it'll play out.
Yeah, I agree. I've never seen anything to this extent where we've over the course just followed one character's journey and they end up being completely evil, which may not happen. We don't know yet. But it definitely seems that he's walking the line right now, you know?
Yeah.
So with that being said, we will catch you guys next week with episode 11.
Mhm.
Yeah, like and subscribe. See you guys then.